What have the following cars got in common? The Jaguar XK8, the Porsche Boxster, the BMW 5 Series, the BMW Z3, the Mercedes SLK. I'll tell you what they've got in common. None of them, not one of them, is as good as this car here. Well, that's not me talking, that's the jury, the 55-man strong jury of journalists who come up with the Car of the Year awards every year. And they've decided that this car, the Renault Megane Scenic, is a better car than all those great cars that I've just mentioned. What's more, it's also a better car than highly credible new cars like the Volkswagen Passat, the Skoda Octavia, the Ford Ka, and the Audi A3. It wiped the floor with those, and it wiped the floor with all those other supercars I've just mentioned to you. It's the Renault Megane Scenic. It's the best car on the road according to the judges, and I can't think why. Well, if you think that the Scenic looks like a cross between a conventional 5-door family hatchback and a mini MPV, a mini people carrier if you like, you're absolutely right, because that's what it is. It's a wacky design, there's nothing else like it. It's the only small MPV on the market, although Renault like to call it an activity car rather than an MPV. And our very own Ginny Buckley caught up with Renault's head of design, who talked her through the new Megane Scenic.
I think that the market is changing dramatically right now, and the days are over of cars where you're hoping to make 3,000 a day and sell 3,000 a day. It's a market which is a market of offer rather than demand, and so therefore you really have to understand your customer. And clearly with the Scenic we have a vehicle which is so different to anything which has been built so far. There's been a craze for MPVs, of course, but they are a little bit too expensive for the average family. And with the Scenic we're offering a new type of car for European families, and I think it's going to go really well.
Are you hoping to open the market up much in the same way as the hatchback did for the 60s?
Absolutely. If I look at the way that the response has been in the first days of sale, we've had more than 7,000 orders, and I think 1,000 of those were before the prices were known. So I think that we are clearly going to open up a new era, and the enthusiasm that we had at the last Paris Motor Show we have never lived anything like that before.
It's quite an exciting time for you.
It is. It is.
The car market is very crowded. Are you confident enough that the niche is there for the Scenic?
Well, I don't think it's a niche. I really think that the future of the automobile is oriented towards the Scenic type of vehicle, and that the ordinary five-door hatch will eventually become a niche segment. I think the industry is going towards this type of vehicle.
One of the many reasons why this car won the 1997 Car of the Year award is its functionality, according to the press release that comes with it. And I guess this is what you could call one of the functional features of this car, this little aircraft style table which collapses every time you lean on it, so I'm not sure how clever it is. But I've got to say, it's a wacky interior, it's very versatile, and that's again another point that wins it the title. But let's look at some of these other things. General design, I mean, what do you think of the general design? All right, it's different, but it only looks like a small people carrier. Nothing more, nothing less. Comfort, well, I'm not particularly comfortable in this car. Safety, well, yeah, it's got a lot of good safety features. But I have to say that when you look at some of the other contenders for the title, things like Mercedes-Benz and Porsches and BMW, what would you rather wrap yourself around in or hit a lamppost in? This car, or a Mercedes, a BM, or a Porsche? We then get on to things like driver satisfaction. Well, I can tell you, having driven things like the Porsche and the BM, you get a lot more satisfaction driving those cars than this one. And then perhaps one of the final things, price. And that's an interesting one. Despite the fact that this is a 5-door hatchback car, albeit a very versatile 5-door hatchback car, it's going to be costing quite a bit more actually than a conventional 5-door hatchback. So you've got to look towards paying something of the order of £13,000 when this car goes on sale. The thing that really puzzles me about this car is that if anybody was going to be enthusiastic about a car like this, it should be somebody like me, a 30-something bloke on a kind of modest to middle income. In other words, you know, a kind of ordinary guy in the street with a couple of kids, which I have, and yet I don't want a car like this, and my kids don't want a car like this. I mean, to say that it's multi-purpose and activity isn't enough for me. It just doesn't have that gotta have it factor. And like I said, I find it quite ironic that I'm the perfect candidate. I should be the sort of bloke getting excited about a car like this because it, in theory, suits my lifestyle and it accommodates my kids and it's got the versatility and all the things that go with having children. But quite frankly, on a long-term basis, I wouldn't be seen dead in a car like this. And the reason is that it just screams out at people, family man. And I'm not sure when I drive down the street, I want to demonstrate that I'm a family man. And similarly, for women, I'm not sure that when a woman drives a car like this, she wants to scream to the world, yes, I'm dropping off the kids at school, or I'm taking the old man down to the railway station because he's off to the office for the day, or I'm going to meet the girls for coffee morning. And if you drive a car like this, you might as well have a sticker down the side saying that sort of thing, because you are a very particular type of driver if you go for a car like this. You're a family driver. You've got kids, you've got to pick kids up from school, go shopping. Do you traditionally like people carriers?
I don't actually. I think they look a bit ridiculous, but...
But why is that? Is that because they say too much about you, you know, that you are a family person and perhaps you don't want to advertise the fact?
Yeah, possibly. And being so high up, I feel like you sort of hog the road a bit.
And maybe feel like driving a minivan rather than a car?
I do a bit, actually.
Can I have a look?
Sure, go ahead. Now, what do you think of that seat fabric and those colours?
It's very wild. Very wild, very nice actually. Yes, plenty of leg room.
Would you invest £13,000 worth of your money?
No, I wouldn't.
It's quite compact, actually, isn't it? It's a bit shorter than the normal
It's-
sort of people carriers.
Yeah, it's really the only small people carrier on the market. All these seats come out, they slide around, you can remove them. You could just drive along with one seat in the car, the driver's seat, if you wanted. Does that appeal to you?
Yes, yes. Well, as a mother, and taking them to and from school, it's very convenient.
What about the tables, kids? Have you seen the tables on the back of the chair?
The seats are really child friendly as well because they're easy to clean.
Are they now? That's something I don't know anything about. They look like if you spilt an ice cream or something, you'd have problems, but not.
I've got a car with a beige interior and it's a nightmare. That's wonderful. We just borrowed a Dodge Caravan on holiday and the kids like all the little gadgets and all the places to put the cups and things like that. So
A Dodge Caravan being we call that in this country a Chrysler Voyager. That's what it will be sold as here. That will be probably around £20,000. This is about £13,000. What do you think of that price?
cheap, really cheap.
You're actually considering buying a Renault Megane, although not necessarily a Scenic.
Not necessarily a Scenic. No, we're probably looking more at the saloon, I think, rather than the Scenic.
Because as you know, this is part of the Megane family. There's about 5 of them. How does this appeal to you, this one?
Well, this one actually looks probably better from our point of view than the saloon because it's larger and we're a tall family basically. Even a 12-year-old's fast approaching 6 foot, so this one would probably be a better model to buy.
Well, I don't quite know what I'm driving when I climb into this thing. I mean, it looks like a conventional car in the sense that it's got 5 traditional seats, although they're not so traditional when you consider that you can remove those seats and play around with them, unlike any other car in this class. But it feels very much, I don't know, almost like a little minibus. I don't like this driving position. I feel perched up here. I feel I'm leaning down to grab the steering wheel, and I don't like that. I don't mind high driving positions as a general rule, but there's something that unnerves me about this. The waistline of the car is very low. I'm up here, I'm peering down. I don't know, I feel like a minibus driver somehow. And how is this little minibus when you're at the wheel? Well, you know, it does everything you would expect it to do. It is a Renault after all, and it's difficult to think of a car manufacturer that's having a better time of it at the moment than Renault, what with their Formula One success and their Car of the Year awards. But it's pretty unremarkable, I have to say. I mean, everything's where you'd expect it to be, but you don't climb into this car and say to yourself, wow, this is the best interior I've seen all year. In fact, I don't even climb in this car and say to myself, this is the best interior I've seen all week, because I've seen better. It's functional enough. The heating and ventilation system I didn't find remarkable. I was either too hot or too cold when I was driving up in this car late last night when it was icy and foggy. Performance-wise, well, you wouldn't want a family activity vehicle, and that's what they call this. Not quite sure what activity they're referring to, but that's the official term for this car. It's not a people carrier, it's not an MPV, it's an activity vehicle. And really it's a vehicle that will best serve its purpose with a couple of kids in the back, and I suppose your partner by your side. And therefore you wouldn't want to drive the thing like a lunatic, you wouldn't want it for performance, and thank God for that, because it's not terribly punchy, it's not terribly satisfying to drive, although it has to be said, it does everything very, very well indeed. I would have thought with its sort of family car status that it would have had far more little touches to appeal to people who are on a long journey, perhaps visiting relatives or going on holiday as a family unit. And well, yes, there are some large bins here in the door pockets for your rubbish, certainly to contain everything from a pint of milk to a bottle of wine or whatever you want to carry around. But the drinks holder is down at the front here, very easy for the drinks to spill, I think. There's no way of securing that soft drink that you'd have in the front. And very, very small glove compartment. And I'd like to certainly see more nooks and crannies close to me as the driver for all those little bits and pieces that you need. Coins, cigarettes, cassettes, whatever you carry around with you in your car. Now before you invest your £13,000 or more in this vehicle, which incidentally will come with a 1.8 and a 2 litre engine and possibly a turbo diesel as well, you really have to ask yourself, how often will you need to move those seats in and out of the vehicle? Can you get by with an ordinary 5-door hatchback? Can you indeed get by with a small 5-door hatchback, something like a Volkswagen Polo or a Ford Fiesta, for example? If the answer to that question is yes, then you could be saving yourself a hell of a lot of money. If you really need to remove those seats, if you really need all this load lugging capacity, if you really need the versatility that this offers, then go for the Scenic. But you'll be paying a high price.